Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We have an exciting show. One of Doctor's colleagues, mentors that is here with us today, Dr. Moen. I'm really excited to hear what he has to say. He lived in the States for a long time, has moved out of the States over to Italy. And his reasons for moving out of the States and just his explanation on the precarious situation that we have is extremely interesting, and it's compelling. And I look forward to hearing what he has to say to explain everything. Dr.
Well, it's
Shawn?
good to have you, Dr. Moen. I want to just say, just so you know, these two books, in addition to, obviously, first and foremost, the Holy Bible, but these two books and many of I have all of his books, I think.
Well, first, nobody calls me Dr. Moen. I appreciate that, but everybody calls me Skip, so we might as well start there.
Okay.
People that I know, and if somebody actually calls me by my legal name or with the title, then I know that they're trying to sell me something on the phone or something like that. So yes, my wife and I moved to Italy 4 years ago. We didn't move because we were recognizing what was happening in the United States. We actually moved before we started to recognize that for family reasons. We'd wanted to move there for many, many years, and it just so happened that it was the right time to do that. But since we have moved there, each time we come back to the United States, we recognize what is transpiring in the culture, particularly the culture of the West. And because we're gone for months at a time, we don't see it gradually. We see it in fairly significant steps because we come in and out. And it's quite concerning. I have we have several children, and I have now 2 one-year-old grandsons. And I am really concerned about what's going to happen in their lives, in their teenage and adult years, given where we are now. But we can talk about that if you want, but there's other things to talk about as well.
Your CV is just extensive, and it's so long that we would run out of time. But your educational background is you have a doctorate in philosophy from Oxford University, Oxford, England, an MA, University of Washington, an MA cum laude, Trinity Evangelical Divinity School, a BA, University of Washington, BA, magna cum laude, Seattle Pacific College, Seattle, Washington. And then you were one of my professors from 2005 to 117, and you've done a lot of things. I mean, I don't know how you have found time to eat, but apparently you found the fountain of youth, because you don't look any older. I mean, I've seen you forever. So I talked about these two books, The Lucky Life and Guardian Angel. I think Guardian Angel is probably your biggest seller, but those two books alone bent my world, my paradigm, and in a better way. They help to align, and I think that's just so critical. So I thank you for that.
Okay, let me make first a comment. This is interesting because the book that you brought up first, The Lucky Life, which is a look at the Beatitudes from a Hebrew perspective, actually ended up on the Glenn Beck show. I did a Glenn Beck interview over that book, and that was really cool. He got a chance to talk to me about what the Beatitudes imply for how a civilization should work, and that was really nice. Now let me go back to your question. The debate over which biblical translation basically comes down to a discussion about which theological camp you're in. And since churches often claim that their theology is the correct theology, they will endorse one particular translation that fits the theological agenda rather than another. And actually, excuse me, The truth of the matter is that every translation, you know this, every translation leaves something on the table. I mean, if you speak fluent Spanish or Italian and English, you know that there are certain phrases and ideas that can't be translated from one language to another. For example, there's an Italian idiom, acqua in bocca, and it literally means water in the mouth. But it's an idiom for not telling or for not revealing a secret, right? So, I mean, that happens all the time, and particularly when you're talking about Semitic languages. So the problem with an English translation is that the translator has to decide how he's going to handle all of these idioms. And if he's going to do it literally, in which case it doesn't make any sense. It's like me saying to someone in Italian, water in the mouth, instead of keep a secret, right? But if I use the idiom keep a secret, then I can't back translate to find out what the actual words were. And so most people just opt for the biblical translation that they're used to. They grew up with the King James, they stay with the King James. They grew up with like I did, the New American Standard. You just keep the New American Standard. The difference is recognizing that you're dealing with a translation, right? The translation is not God's word. It's man's interpretation of the original text that was God's word, right? And so no matter which translation you choose, there's always going to be some issue that has to go on there, and particularly when you have theologically based translations. So the answer to the second part of your question, I've said I use the NASB most of the time. I use Robert Alter's the Hebrew Bible whenever I can, but it's not something you carry to church because it's about this big, and it's like 5,000 or 6,000 pages. But it's great for research. So the point is, you use an English Bible that you're comfortable with, that you grew up with, recognizing that you're dealing with a translation. And then when you want to do serious stuff, you have to go back to the original languages. There's just no other way to do it.
Yeah, that's spot on. Shawn gave me one of the Bibles that I use as a keyword study Bible, which is a Hebrew Greek translation. And one thing I love about the book is not only does it have the English passages, but it also has the Hebrew meaning behind everything. So if I'm really wanting to make sure I understand the core message, I can reference that.
I would also caution you that a keyword study Bible or even a short lexicon doesn't actually capture the full range of the nuances of a word. I'll give you an example. There's a particularly important Hebrew word, chesed, which is often translated in the NASB by loving kindness and other versions of that. And if you have a key study Bible, it'll say, oh, here's this word chesed, and it'll give you some Hebrew background. But the truth of the matter is, the Theological Dictionary of the Old Testament has about a 60-page article on that one word, and I have 2 books of 200 pages each on that one word because it's so critical to the understanding of a Hebraic worldview. And it is a completely Hebrew word. It has no cognates in any other Semitic language. So in order to understand the concept, it isn't just a matter of, oh, now I've got a little bit of Hebrew dictionary on the side. I need a full range of what this involves because it's fundamental to understanding the character of God. And of course, that's part and parcel to the Hebraic thinking. So there's just an example. Yes, a keyword or a small lexicon or something like that will help. But if you really want to dig into what the mentality of the author was, which is what we're trying to get at, what did the author mean when he used these words, then we really have to do some serious research. And it's a lifetime deal. You don't ever exhaust it. You just keep learning and learning.
Yeah. And you nailed it, because Shawn has really been pressing me to study and learn everything about Hebrew. So, and he never said it that way, but now it makes total sense.
Well, one of the things that I do fortunately in Parma, I've become very good friends with the rabbi of Parma, and we get together every week to study Torah. So it's wonderful because his education was all in the yeshiva, and he has a vast knowledge of the Talmud, right? So between the two of us, we have the philosophical Greek underpinnings of Western civilization from me and the Judaic Talmudic ideas from him. And between the two of us, we come up with some really, really great stuff. So I would encourage people, if they can find a rabbi who is friendly enough and open enough to have these kind of discussions, it just opens the world to all kinds of things that most people who came out of Christian backgrounds will have no idea that kind of material is even there.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Thank you for watching this segment from our live show. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, except for the Sabbath period.